Hi, everyone, and welcome back. Thank you so much for being back with us again this week. So last week, we began a conversation with Magdelene Leon, whom many of us knew growing up as Katie Buddington. Katie was the first child born into the community of Jesus. And in part one, she gave us a rare glimpse into what it was like for the very first generation of children raised inside the community. We talked about her being separated from her family, being disciplined by other adults, living under constant fear of shame and punishment, and growing up believing that the community was the only safe place in the world. She also shared something that really stayed with me: the way trust was slowly eroded. Trust in adults, trust in friends, even trust in herself. When we left off, Katie had graduated from Nauset Regional High School. Like many other young people raised in the community, the path ahead for her had largely been decided. She went on to take her first vows as a novice sister, believing that this was the life she was meant to live. But that wasn't the end of her story. In today's episode, Katie shares what led her to question everything, how she found the courage to leave the only world she'd ever known, and what healing has looked like on the other side. My name is Bonnie Zampino. I'm your host, and this is The Cult on the Cape.
So you decide you're gonna try being a novice because nobody is available for you to be married to, and therefore this is your option.
Yeah, and I can't go to college because we had just had no money, so we weren't the elite. Yeah, so I became a novice. And at this time, my best friend is kind of doing all the same things with me. So I have somebody to talk to. I mean, I told you this before, but like we had snuck a cigarette down on the beach. Like she's that kind of a best friend, not going to tattle on me. But the further it gets into it, you had to write every night. You have to write in this journal, like what you did wrong that day and what sin you were in. So you'd frankly, you'd be making up crap. Like I just made up, I don't know. We slept in these big rooms with bunk beds. I have so many memories of
Bunk beds, yes.
Every bed I was in was a bunk bed until I left. So you'd have to write these notes and it's all degrading. You're getting in trouble all the time. Like you're literally put down all the time. And so the Kuwait War happens. I was in the old kitchen and I remember hearing that on the radio. And I had been just already thinking that this is not what I want to do. I'm not happy. Like I was just really not happy. Really just not. And my friend had said she was going to be leaving. And I wrote a note saying, I think I don't want to do this. Like, I think I need to leave. And then I was told, you're not leaving. You're only doing it because so-and-so is doing it. And you're staying. And there was no option. Like, okay. I mean, you look, yeah. I mean, you trust that these people are the direct ear to God. I mean, you really think they're the direct ear to God.
You also have no means to leave. You have no money. You know no one. You have no transportation. Like, what are you going to do? How are you going to leave? You walk? You're going to walk. To where? And do what?
Right. And that's part of it, too. You've been so isolated. My dad had left at that time. We weren't speaking, not due to me, but due to the community, just saying it was a bad choice to want to speak with my father. It was a bad choice. My brother and sister were making the choice. It was bad. I was going to be, you're going to go to hell. You were going to that was a bad choice. And so I chose not to. So I wasn't in contact with him at that point. And mom, like going into the oblate sisterhood at that point. So mom wasn't an option. And so I decided to stay and then to take my first vows. I really had no other option. What else was I going to do? At that point, it had kind of been, I had to compartmentalize that part of me, that small little individual self, that little spark that was there just from being born as a human. Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay. I get it. So take a break if you want.
No, it's okay. I just want to yeah. So I had to just bury that. That had to be buried. And I mean, fortunately, I had that to bury. I don't know about the kids who are born there now. Do they have that to bury? I don't know. It's a question I ask myself. So that got put way inside, psychological. There's a whole, that got buried, and I did what was quote unquote right, the God's will for me. So I did my first vows. And I'm the type of person, I will try to find happiness where I am. That's just kind of what I am like. We do these stupid skits, and I'd always like I made a bottle band with all the other sisters my age, and we literally made music out of bottles of water. It was good, actually. It's that same whole thing where you get given a carrot. You get given one carrot to a million bad things. And so you just live for that dopamine hit of that one carrot, because that's going to carry you through. And there are lots of stories of being a sister. This isn't long enough. I mean, we can do another thing.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm really interested.
You should do one with those of us who have been sisters.
That's an amazing idea. Let's do that. Just talk about the sisterhood. I love that.
We could just have a discussion with all of us. I think that's a whole podcast on its own, because so much, too much.
Yes. Okay.
So eventually you take a first set of vows, and then you take a second set of vows. So the first set of vows, you redo them every year. And then the second set is permanent, like a marriage. And so when it was kind of coming up time for my second set, I went to Betty Pugsley and said I wanted to do this Outward Bound. So all along, it's really interesting. Along this whole course of my life, I've always wanted to go be by myself and try what it's like by myself. Try something else. We haven't even touched up how we all have to do musical instruments, and I'm playing the harp at this time. So I'm playing the harp at this time. So I go to her and have request a meeting and have a meeting and say, I really think it would be better for me in the long run if I went and did this, like an Outward Bound or something like that. I feel like that's better for the community, because then I know for sure that I want to be here. That makes, to my logical mind, this has always made sense, and it's always been taken out from underneath me. And she goes, well, you can do that, but nobody's paying for that. You have to come up with the money to do that, or you can do your second vows. What kind of choice is that? At that point, my mom is in the sisterhood. She's already given up everything. My dad's not in the picture. My brother and sister are gone. I have nobody. She just took that out from under me. There was no option. So I had to take my second vows, which was horrendous. Horrendous.
It was?
Yeah. So before you take your second vows, you have a little mini retreat where you're isolated for 3 days. And you're given, you get to go stay at the little hotel, Bethany, and have your meals and everything, but you're isolated. No one can talk to you. It's your own. No one can talk to you. You don't talk to anyone. It's supposed to be self-reflection. But I wasn't sure. I was I don't really want to do this. But I don't have any other option, and there's no one to talk to. I couldn't talk to Pugsley because it wouldn't have been, but there was no one else. There was no one. I had no one except God. Or wasn't speaking to me. So I decided to do it because I don't know what else. What am I going to do? Everyone's expecting me to do this, right? It's got to be somebody who's expected to get married to this person, and they do it because they're just brave enough to say no.
Yeah.
So I do my second vows, and in those vows, I wonder if one of us has those. I lost mine. Unfortunately, I lost a lot of good stuff. It says you are going to give up the right to own the typical ones, but then it also says you're going to give up the right to make your own decisions. You're going to give up your right to your will. You're going to give up your right to your freedom. Those second vows are brutal. It's basically saying you're giving up any autonomy that you may have had left, and you're signing. And it's a legal document, I mean, not really, but you think it is. And I just couldn't do it. And she looked at me and she goes, you just do this. I couldn't even say it. And she's like, you just do this. I'll never forget that. And so I did it. And then after that, I had such a release of dopamine because it was so stressful. I thought I was having a religious experience. So just because the stress and then the release and then all that.
Yeah.
So I was flying on a high for like a week or so, whatever. And I did that for a couple of years. And then so I took kids hiking along this whole way. They let me do that. So that's the carrot thing. They let me do something I liked. I got to do computers, but I was put in the kitchen. I like to cook, but I was in the kitchen. So you're told what you're going to do. And I was like, at least it wasn't the laundry, thank God. But you're always in trouble. Like, you know, if something burns or you overcook something, like you're out of God's will, you know, the whole thing. It's just really pretty ridiculous. We'll go over that. Yeah, so I end up taking girls hiking every fall, which was great. Loved it. That was wonderful. So I did get to do something I liked. It's great. To get like qualified, you go through the Appalachian Mountain Club and you take courses. Yeah, it was great. And they did pay for that. I don't know, they did do that. So it was like $300, you know, it's not really. Oh, wait, I take it back. I had to ask for them to donate it to me. They didn't pay for that. I had to call and ask them to donate it. So anything that I ever got, I had to ask to be donated. Yeah. And then once I took the first one, I took quite a few with them. They knew me. And so that for them was a donation. Did anybody talk to you about having to do telemarketing through Paraclete Press as a sister?
No, but I know that that's a thing, and I would very much like to know about this.
We were forced. That is not my thing at all. Cold calling people on the phone. Oh my God, no. So we were forced to. You couldn't not do it. You had to sign up and you had to go to Paraclete and get paid $3 an hour to cold call these lists for like 4 hours. That was horrendous. Horrible.
Who were you calling and what were you saying?
I think it was to sell. It must have been those tapes. Oh, yeah. It was like the music tapes and stuff. It was just selling the products of Paraclete Press. They must have been doing bad or something. Yeah, it was the 90s.
And your $3 an hour, did you get to keep that or did you have to hand that over?
No, you hand it over because I signed a vow of poverty saying I couldn't earn anything.
So I wonder about this. So listen, Paraclete Press is a for-profit company.
Yeah.
They pay minimum wage to community members to work there. All of the brothers and sisters that work there turn around and give that to the community. How does that work? Like Paraclete, do they write that off as a donation?
I don't know, because when I left and I got my first Social Security statement, I've got some earnings that in years that I was in the community. So obviously
they had to do it as like employment taxing, I guess. Yeah.
It wasn't a ton, but they were claiming earnings in my name, probably because in the end they wanted my Social Security.
Probably.
You know, that could have been part of it, trying to get enough credits to get Social Security checks for people. I kind of think that's probably some of it. But anyways, that was a side. But so stuff like that happened all the time, you know, just all the time. But back to the Appalachian Club, I took this course. It was a 5-day course. And at the end of it, you write yourself a letter and they're going to mail it to you in a year. So I wrote a very honest letter because I thought, hell, at that point, I'm already questioning. I've been questioning for a while and I don't know how to extricate myself. I don't know how to do it. I don't know. So I write myself a letter. Then next year, so that was in like August of 2000. Then I go to Harp Camp in June, July, and August of 2001. Yeah, 2001. And I'm there for 3 months and I'm really questioning my choices that I want to leave. I don't think it's right for me. I need to I just don't know if it's right. Like I've never experienced anything else in my life. So how do I know this is the right path for me? They set my mom up to bully me into staying and to not do anything. So poor mom, she had to like tell me I was going to hell and all this stuff if I left.
So they knew when you went to this camp, they knew that you were questioning?
No, no. So when I went to the camp, I started working. So we had a carpenter come and they were redoing this beautiful, it's this huge house with this beautiful porch that needed refinishing. And so he asked if a couple of us lived at the house. And so he asked if any of us wanted to help and make some money. And so I said, sure, because I had plenty of spare time. So I made money. I made like almost $3,500 that summer. And so by just kind of working with my hands, I really liked it a lot. I experienced more freedom because I could just go where I wanted. I had my own bedroom. So that actually was the first time I had my own bedroom. The girls I lived with were great. And so I like talked to them about what was going on.
Were they community people up there?
So this was just normal people. And then I started to realize that I could function in a normal world. Like, it wasn't what I had been taught and told. Like, these people weren't evil. Like, the world wasn't evil. Well, I mean, you could, whatever, but you know what I mean. These people were normal people. So this was the first time, I was there for 3 months. I'm surprised they let me do that. And I started working. I opened a bank account. Didn't let anyone know. Yeah.
Oh, smart.
And at this point, I've changed my name to Magdelene. So it's Magdelene Buddington. I kept my middle name, my first name. So it was Magdelene Catherine Buddington. People knew me as Magdelene because that's my sister name. And I just had chosen that name. Had some calls with Irene.
And that was the lead sister, right?
Yeah. And at this point, I'm realizing that just being honest about how you're feeling is kind of what I had to do, like the better thing to do. And so she was not helpful at all. Like, she just didn't know what to say to me or anything. So the lady I had the harp school said to me, why don't you come live with me? You can do kind of what you're doing, which I was helping make her meals and stuff. That's it. She wasn't expecting me to clean or anything. I was just helping with her meals.
That's vacation.
Yeah, it was great. She's like, I have a guest cottage you can stay at. We'll continue your harp because you don't have to go back there. You can just come with me. Yeah, so it was kind of on a silver platter, but I was like, I've lived in this place for 30 years. Like, what if I'm just questioning things and it's not right? And I thought, I need to go back and make sure it's right. Like, make sure this is what I want to do because this is a huge thing. This is a big thing. So I said, thank you. I'm going to go back with the knowledge that I want to leave.
I think it's important to point out too that people try to leave, quote unquote, the right way. And what I hear over and over is that people ask for a leave of absence. And I think it's because, number one, that's supposed to be allowed in the vows and the rule. And also because if you leave the wrong way, you can't go back.
Right.
And when that's the only life you've known, and what if they're right? What if you do end up turning into a prostitute? What if everybody's going to hell? What if leaving is the wrong decision? I want to basically keep a foot in the door.
Yep.
Because I don't know. And I don't know anything other than this. But I want to know other than this.
Yep.
I know people are like, oh my God, why you had this handed to you? Why would you go back? Well, because what if it's wrong and you do it wrong? Then you can't go back. Then you're stuck.
Exactly. And that's it. Exactly. Right. That's it. You said it very well. And that's exactly what it is. It's your whole life.
All you know. It's all you know. It would be like
your family.
Being at this, like going into the witness protection program is like what it would be. Say goodbye to everybody that you know, change your name, everything is gone. And you are starting completely over, knowing nothing, knowing no one, not even yourself.
Yep, exactly. And that's why you want to leave a back door open. And that's why I did. So I thought, well, maybe I'll go back. And this is just because I've been out in the world and it's corrupting me. Like, literally, these are the thoughts that go through your head. I drove back, and the second that I set foot on the property, it was like a gray cloud was on top of me and I couldn't breathe. And I was like, oh, hell, wow. Okay. So now I need to extricate myself. So I came back the end of August. I took girls camping, and all the sisters were like, well, maybe you shouldn't take the girls camping. You're in emotional turmoil. And I was like, oh my God, hell no, we're going camping because this may be the last time I do this. And this is what I live for. So that was like end of August. So we did that. It was great. And the sister who went with me, I had some really good conversations with. And when I came back, I said, I want to try other things. I wrote a letter to Magdelene Pugsley saying, you're my spiritual mother. I'm in turmoil. I need to talk to you because I need to have a conversation with you. I'm feeling this way. So then I get a letter back saying that she's too busy to meet with me because she's meeting with the woohoo someone, whatever. I don't even remember who the F it was, but it was just some person like minister or something. And if I felt like I needed to leave, then I need to just leave the harp behind. Like, that's what the letter said.
That's after 30 years of your life. That's what it's, I don't have time to talk to you, and leave the harp and don't let the door hit you.
You're on the way out. So I remember showing it to Mom, and Mom kind of tried to defend her. And I was like, no, Mom, this is like, she's supposed to be my spiritual mother, and she can't pull the job off. And so I'm calling Dad to see if he can pick me up, and we'll figure it out. And that's when Mom's like, well, I think maybe I should go with you. And, I'm in my own crisis. I'm thinking, okay, whatever, but that's your decision. I'm not going to be facilitating that. The timeline's a little bit messed up. So yeah, so I went up and I started packing that week. I went to the attic. I started packing up all my stuff. And then I told them that I was going to leave, but I was figuring it out with my dad. And I think they were still thinking I wasn't going to go. I don't know. But then they made me meet with the other sisters my age. And I remember telling them that I was going to be going on a leave of absence. See, so there's a whole leave of absence. I was still thinking it was a leave of absence, even though after I got her letter, I realized that it wasn't a leave of absence. But I kind of said it to them that it was a leave of absence because I didn't want them to hate me. And so I told them, and I remember being like, it's not anyone's fault. Like, this is my own thing. And Irene going, okay, that's enough. You need to leave. So she didn't want, I don't know if they were going to blame them for me leaving. Like, you know how it works. Yes. Like, you guys didn't do enough to keep her here. So I was absolving them of that. Like, this was not you. And so then I was told that when I left, I had to do it during one of the chant services so that nobody saw me leave. I think, God, I should have just done it at like lunchtime. Like, why did I agree to that?
If people see it happening, it gives them ideas, right?
You could do it. Then not to take the harp, which I couldn't have anyways because Dad didn't have room in his car. But I did take all the music, all the strings, all the tuning equipment, and the bench. So I took everything except the harp. And I remember them writing me a letter after I left asking me to return it all. And I just threw them.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I still have the music.
Did that letter come from their attorney?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did fight for the money I had made for the harp because I had raised like $6,000 for the harp, and then they sold the harp for $6,000, and together we got the new harp. So I initially asked for that money, and then I was told, no, I was a sister, and you claim poverty. Well, fortunately for me, I had baked bread for years to make this money, and I had all my documentation from that. So I said, well, we could go to court where it shows that I actually made money and put it into an account that was for the harp. Or you could just, if we sold the harp and split it, I'd get $6,000 and you'd get $6,000. So we could act like adults. This was my letter. We could act like adults and you just give me the money that is mine. Or we can go do that. So they said, okay, but you have to sign this saying you're not going to sue us. And I'm like, hell, suing you ain't going to get me anything. Like, yeah. So fine. But I didn't sign something say I couldn't talk about how shitty you are. Good for you. Yeah, I mean, at that point, I was starting to come in a little bit into my own. I mean, it's taken years. So that's that. That's I left. I met my husband in Maine. That's a whole nother story on itself on how do you be married after you've been living in a religious cult. Because every little thing you react out of the cult. That we've been together 20 years. So,
Wow.
And yeah. We still don't hate each other.
I'd love to get back together. I think it would be very cool if we just maybe did an episode with former sisters and talk about that life and then life after.
Yeah.
But from what I've heard along the way, you've been married for 20 years. You have children, a child.
I have one daughter. I mean, and that's the whole thing, until you have a child, you don't realize the harm that was done to you.
Yes.
So that was, man, I've had to work through a lot because you would do anything for your child. And when you realize that that wasn't done for you, it's quite devastating. Yeah. So there's a lot with that. Yeah. And I've gone to get my nursing degree, which is what I wanted to do the whole time in the community. Before I even wanted to go to the Coast Guard, I just wanted to do something medical. I either wanted to be a doctor or a nurse, and I just never could because we didn't have money. Got my nursing, and now my daughter's 19, so I'm going for my nurse practitioner. Yeah, so, and the crazy thing is you can't find a therapist. I live in Maine. I have tried, and I would love to find somebody who specializes in this, and it's very difficult.
Well, if I can put something out there to our listeners, because it's a perfect segue. First of all, anybody who's listening, if you can like us, follow us, subscribe to us, and share us, we would be so appreciative, because Rock Harbor Truth is a nonprofit organization who I work for, who brings this podcast to you. And we have been working on a couple of fronts. One is education and storytelling, which this podcast does. One is advocacy around laws that tend to protect perpetrators and victimize victims, and working to change some of that. But the other thing that we really feel strongly that we need to focus on is how do we support survivors? And we have been talking to a lot of community partners on Cape Cod, and we've identified what services exist so when someone comes out, they can have support, and what services don't. And what we have found is that the biggest need is for therapists who understand cult dynamics. And so we are in the process of attempting to fundraise, grant write, and hopefully monetize this podcast as well to raise money, because there is a group called the Lawlich Center on Cults and Coercion. We had one of their psychologists on the podcast with us a while ago. They offer a continuing education certified program for clinicians in how to work with cult survivors. What we are attempting to do is to raise money so that we can pay for, we're hoping 20 clinicians to go and get the certification, and then have them as a network, and then be able to pay for maybe 3 sessions for a cult survivor to get introduced to someone, have a couple of therapy sessions, and then hopefully they can pick it up and go on from there. So any of you that are listening, if you would like to support that, you just heard Magdelene share, it's very, very hard to find a therapist that understands the long-term implications of being raised in a cult. You can support this work in any way, even by just telling your friends, subscribing, following us. If you want to make a donation, you can visit us at rockharbortruth.org, and any other ways that you can think to support our mission. We would very much appreciate it. And Magdelene, I have 2 questions, and then we're going to wrap up. The first is, did you make the right decision? Are you happy?
Absolutely.
The second is, where are you about God?
There is something there. I just don't believe that there's a God in the sky who is watching over you and punishing you in a certain way. It never got rid of my spirituality. I will never organize religion again.
That sounds so familiar. And I like to say that I have a complicated relationship with God. Magdalene, it was amazing to see you, amazing to hear your story. So courageous that you got out and that you're continuing to do the work. You are going to make an amazing nurse practitioner and continue making a difference in the world. And I'm looking forward to having you back and having some additional conversations.
Thank you very much, Bonnie. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Brought to you by Rock Harbor Truth. I'm your host, Bonnie Zampino. Thank you for listening as we continue telling the story of the cult on the Cape.